what you call it? I call it ashy lip. Ashy lip straights or something like that.
Right.
They're on my nerves lately, these people. I tell you.
But let's what's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of your favorite podcast, The Misplaced American. I'm your host, Justin White. I have two creators on the podcast today. Two people who, in my eyes, should be are considered real life heroes for putting out something that most people dream to put out. Like, so doing things I guess most people just talk about but don't actually do. I have Malachi Bailey, and is it Brian Wickoff?
It's actually Brian Lambert, man.
Oh, Brian Lambert. I apologize.
Yeah. No worries.
But
It's
Brian Lambert,
everybody, even me.
But I don't know if you guys want to introduce yourselves. Give yourself a little introduction.
Brian, go ahead.
No, after you, sir. After you. You know how long I talk.
Well, that is true. So Justin and I, we've known each other for going on 10 years. But for those who don't know me, my name is Malachi Bailey. I am an author and a comic book writer. I am the head of development for Wingless Comics. And I am what they say, I'm living the dream. I get to create, new characters and all that good stuff. So, it's pretty cool, and I'm here for it.
Gunshots.
Hey, everybody. I'm Brian Lambert. I am the owner and one of the creators of Wingless Comics. I started out as an author, a novel author. I've moved into comics, obviously, as you can see. Malachi and I have formed a friendship and a partnership that's been very beneficial and fruitful, like in every way, not just, monetarily or business wise, but just in general. So I'm very fortunate and very lucky in that, man. And yeah, I get to do something that I love, man. I get to write comics and create stories with some people that I really like doing it with. So I consider myself a lucky person.
So I was excited because I messaged Malachi, and if people listen to my previous podcast with him, you know that I've been here from day one. I've supported her, like the book, from like a storyline, and I've always said, I wanted to see the comic, I want to see her art, and so it's now grown into what we talked about. It is a comic book, and it's beautiful. Like I every time I see it, I legit just get in tears because it's like. I had dreams about this. I've seen this, and I followed this from like a baby to like now it's like growing into something like amazing. I talk about like it's mine. I was there from the beginning. It basically is. I'm like I'm like the Godfather. But yeah, and it's been so amazing to see this. And then so Malachi was telling me about it. I was excited to have him on. He was like, oh, we should have Brian on too. And then Brian, I guess he referred to you as like the father of justice. And I thought that was a super interesting way to describe somebody. Especially because for me, I've never heard of your I didn't come across your comic or your writings until Malachi said who he was working with and sent me links and things. So what does that mean, like father of justice?
That's Malachi's. I don't want to say that's Malachi's phrase. It's one of the many phrases that Malachi uses. But Malachi definitely sees our creations as our children, right? Like so every time. We have a pretty, I don't want to say well-known, right? But I guess pretty well-known poster now that shows our current roster of wingless characters and who we're working with in 2020 going into 2021. And as soon as he saw the sketches, he was like, look at our babies. And I was like, what? He was like, they're our babies. They're our children. Like we birthed them. We created them. We molded them. And I was like, he's got a point, I guess.
You did, yeah.
So Justice started out as an idea. So it's been tagged occasionally as a religious comic, and I don't necessarily consider it that, right? Spawn is not a religious comic. It uses religious themes to be a comic, and so Justice is the same way. So okay. I've used Justice and his stories, even before he was named Justice, when he was a no-named angel, and I was just writing, the novelization kind of stuff as a way to explore, anything, superheroes, mythologies, religion, spirituality, whatever was the current thing in my mind. I've used it as kind of a beacon, among other, writings I've done, but to explore that piece of life. So in terms of that, I think he's been an idea, and this comic and this series and the company has been an idea that's kind of germinated for a while and grown into something. So, I mean, as far as that goes, I guess, I am the father of justice. You know, if we're talking about raising and cultivating an idea, you know.
See, that's interesting to me because, like you said, it's not a religious comic, but it takes like religious ideals into it and like makes it something interesting. Because I told Malachi like in his in her story, you know, like how he links like her heritage back and like, you know, and in African cultures they do that, you know, they link their heritage back to, you know, things happening to them now and things that will happen to them in the future. And so I guess now I can kind of see how her fell into like the character mold of what you guys are working with. I'm not sure how that, like, I'm not even sure, like, honestly, how you guys came up across each other. But I mean, I'm glad you did. I'm not sure if Malachi wants to elaborate on how like he like he just threw her into the mix.
Brian, you take that one.
You see how he's playing coy there? So actually, man, Malachi, well, you know Malachi, we met because he was talking shit. So let's be honest. But, you know, the internet is a great place, man. 6 degrees of separation. So you meet people, you know, through people and on and on and on. And me and Mal started talking actually through our love of X-Men and his obvious love of Storm.
Right.
And so we, you know, that's where it started. And there was a week or something where it was like, you know, black authors or indie authors, like just authors in general, not comics, but authors. Mm-hmm. And so me and him ended up being on the same post. And it was like that Spider-Man meme where it's like, you right? Oh, you right? You know what I mean? We're looking at each other like, what? So we bought each other's books. I started reading through his. He started reading through mine. Obviously, we were talking the whole time, just, you know, chit chats back and forth or whatever in groups and stuff. And one day I hit him up like, "Yo, man, why? You know, you love comics. Like, why aren't you doing comics? Like, I'm super confused." I also hit up one of our mutual friends, and I was like, "Does Malachi want to do comics?" And the mutual friend was like, "Well, maybe I don't. You know, I think so." And I was like, "You never asked him? Like, you do comics, bro." Like you've never seen or, you know, nothing. And it was just kind of real ambivalent. So I was like, well, okay, you know, if you want to drop the ball in my mind, right? I'm like, if you want to drop the ball, cool. So I don't think I waited a day before I hit Malachi up and was like, hey, I got this new venture. So not Wingless, but Justice had debuted in a couple things a year prior. Mm-hmm. So I kind of parlayed that into what I'm doing now, my own personal venture with Wingless Comics. And I hit Malachi up about it. Like, look, man, I'm starting this new venture. This is my plan for the year. This is what I want to do. You know, I think your story, your character has potential. I know it's obvious you want to write comics. So like, do you want to get down or do you want to not, you know? And it was pretty much like, Malachi was like, well, let me think about it. And then you can see his posts later. They were all happy and jubilant or whatever. So all his posts were happy and they didn't make any sense. And then the next thing he goes like, you know, I think that might be a thing we can go into. So, okay. You're just as excited as anybody else. You don't knock it off.
That's so exciting. Like I can't stop smiling because like I remember Malachi messaging me like as this stuff is going on. And he was like, so you remember how you told me like this and that, like so this may be in the works, so and so, like, but I can't say for sure. And so like every step of the way, it'd be like a side message, like, so this might be happening, but don't get your hopes up. I'm just like, I'm all about speaking things into the universe. I'm always like, it's happening. This is gonna happen. You're gonna get a movie next. Someone's gonna start you a TV show. Like I was like, this is happening. I was like, move over, X-Men, Jack Kirby, who. And
who's that?
But so I knew Her was a comic. I'm sorry, a book before. I honestly didn't know until like I said until recently that Justice was a book. So is it simply labeled Justice or?
No. So Justice on the Wingless Entertainment website, there are a few short stories, and actually, as you read the Justice comics, you can see where I took pieces here and there from some of the short stories that I had started with Justice. My novel is actually the Crucian Saga. It's a completely different thing. It's a black Game of Thrones. It's a black Lord of the Rings. It's knights and lords and ladies and just things that we're, we weren't really pearls. Right. So this is the thing. I started writing because one, I love writing. But then I also read a letter from J.R.R. Tolkien that's in the in some of the forwards to the Silmarillion, where he basically said that like England doesn't have any mythology. Like you got Norse, you got Greek, you got Egyptian, you got all these other mythologies, right? But England doesn't have one. So that's why he wrote Lord of the Rings. That's one of the reasons he wrote Lord of the Rings. So for me, being a black man, like being in America, right? And I'm not talking about African mythology, which is kind of crazy to say because that's a continent. You're talking about whole continents got mythology. Like, no, all these small places do. But as a black man, as an African American, you know, in the society that we live in, there are some folk tales that we have, but we don't have any mythology either. Like none, right? So while I realize and I recognize that the Crucian saga could not be a strict mythology because the historical background of this country and African Americans in this country is what it is, I definitely wanted to create the hallmarks of that. So kids could look and see heroes and see these larger than life characters in not only in comics, right? Because comics are great, but also in prose. And just to have a couple different ways to go back and forth and have something that's intrinsically African American, not just African, and there's nothing wrong with that, but something that's intrinsically like based in what we're based in, being in America.
So, man, this is like, man, you need a cape. Somebody can just get a cape. So, I mean, I guess on the same thing, Malachi. Like, I'm assuming you said you said you bought his book and he bought your book. After reading his book, did you almost, because he said he immediately like almost saw the vision, like, you know, he's like, why doesn't he do comics? Like, what, like, did you see that? Like, did you see the vision? Like, wow, I could see her working with, you know, Justice or working with the characters in his book.
You know, it's interesting that you say that because, you know, for me, I've always had like a vague idea as to how I wanted to go about it, but you know, due to circumstances and finances at the time, I didn't allow myself to think further ahead. So when I got into a place where I was more secure financially, when I had, you know, broken away from, you know, a company that was trying to limit me, you know, I was able to, you know, be more, I guess, optimistic about it.
Right.
So you remember last year, you know, I decided to re-release, you know, her. And, you know, I was really focused about that. I was really happy. You know, I was going to, you know, work on a sequel, which I did. But then, you know, God has a way of making things happen. You know, it may not happen on your time, but it happens on his time. So with Brian, you know, he and I, we chatted, you know, here and there, you know, on our mutual friends post. And there was a status that I did, I want to say at the end of last year, beginning of this year. And it pretty much, it's it kind of reflects when, you know, what's his name? Sam Fury, Lieutenant Fury, when he goes to Iron Man, he's like, I'm putting together a team. So, so for me, like I did that with the mutual friend, and I was like, okay, you know, I'm not begging, but I kind of am. And so when Brian approached me about this venture, I was like, you know what, this could potentially work. And so for me, like Brian, he kind of keeps me in check because I'm always like, my head is always in the clouds.
Right.
And he's like, okay, well, that's a great idea, but let's just focus on, you know, this particular issue that we got to get released soon, because I'm always like, oh, what about this and that and that. So when I did that meme and when I spoke to Brian and he, you know, he offered, you know, the spot with Wingless later on, I want to say maybe about 2 or 3 months ago, I did that same status, but I had Justice, you know, at the end of, you know, her, the sequel saying, hey, I'm putting together a team. So it was, you know, it's always been a blessing, you know, it's always been like, you know, a boost, you know, to my confidence too as a writer, because, right, you know, I had all these people that I was friendly with who were writers, but no one really took a chance on me to, you know, do a collaboration. And that collaboration became, you know, a partnership. And this partnership has become a family. So it's like, you know, we actually have like storylines already planned for the next several years. So, you know, I'm very grateful, and I'm just ready. We are so ready.
Yes.
But it's nice to see this because, like, I know you guys worked hard on it, and I know I was excited. But then I remember Kickstarter came out, and I remember you shared it. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go spend my money on this. And I looked, and I already had like $1,000. Like just like it was like one day, it was like 1,000. I was like, whoa. I was like, wait, that's a lot. And then like I kept getting updates, and it was like I don't know what the final number was. I'm sure you guys can enlighten me, but it was like I just remember you guys posting like, wow, like this is a really big following. I'm not sure if you guys were expecting that big of a following, but I'm not sure if you want to speak on like what was your final number and how does it feel, I guess, receiving such a big. To me, it seems like maybe not to y'all. Maybe you guys expecting more or less. I don't know. Talk to me, but to me, it seems like such a huge following for again, essentially like a brand new thing.
Yeah, that's brand new. Brian.
Damn, I knew he was gonna do that, right? So the reason I say damn is because so out the gate, business wise, I had a number in my head,
right?
And I said, hey man, if we hit this number, doesn't matter whatever else happens after that, we've actually come out on the good. We can deliver what we told people we're going to deliver, and we can put $20 in our pocket, you know, whatever. So that for me was the goal. That was the ultimate goal. Right. We crushed that goal in an hour, like you said, man. Like even before the first, like literally in an hour, we made our goal. So at that point, I got a couple messages. I got an actual call from Malachi, and it was all this. See, what's wrong with you, man? I told you that we've got this, right? Because I was the one who was definitely like, nah, we're gonna be real conservative. Because what if everybody hates this, right? What if like only you and my mama, and, like, your cousin, you know, put in on this, man? So if that's all we get, we'll still make it. And so I honestly looked kind of foolish, underestimating the desire to see what we were going to do, and what our characters are going to do, which I'm thankful for. I'm glad to underestimate it. I'm glad that it beat our expectations. I'm glad that me and Malachi, obviously, we're fulfilling orders now. We're getting everything to the printers. We're doing all the business stuff behind the scenes. But I'm very thankful that we can actually count, you know, of our 200 plus backers, Malachi and I can count like the 50 people that we legitimately know, right? Like that are our friends that we eat dinner with, right? So if you're talking about 200 plus, you know, and a fourth of that is your friends and family, right? The people who maybe feel obligated to do it or whatever. That's it. The rest of it is all brand new people. And we topped 8K in funding, you know. That says a lot. That says a lot about what Malachi brings to the table. People love her. They haven't even seen her yet, man. I'll get messages all the time. Oh, she's so dope. She's kicking ass. And I'm like, but you haven't seen her kick nothing yet. But it's great. You know what I mean? Just a random person doing that. That's amazing. That says a lot about, again, what his brand stands for, what our brands together stand for. And it's okay. So I don't want anybody to get it twisted. It's not easy. It's not. Writing is easy, right? But it's not like me and Malachi haven't had these crazy conversations where Malachi goes away angry or I go away angry. Or it's like, no, I didn't say you couldn't do that. I'm just saying, you know, do it like this. I don't want to do it like this, Brian. And vice versa. You have to have that, right? Because, you know, just like I'm the father of Justice, he's the father of her. So we've got to figure out how to raise our children together and how to present them to the world. So what the world has said so far is, right? Exactly. What the world has said so far is that we're doing a damn good job. And we're only growing from here.
So I'm going to segue from that because I want Malachi to answer this. I start with this question because he keeps diverting.
Nice.
So with that, like I said, you said coming together, you guys tend to, you know, sometimes bump heads because, you know, you're human. You know, you have essentially two babies you're trying to raise together. Along with that, what would you consider like a massive challenge for you guys? Because other than like, I mean, or maybe massive challenge would be just you guys bumping heads. Like, is there something that like, was it a fear for y'all? Like, oh wow, like we're gonna do this and then we're not gonna get along, or like these characters aren't gonna blend properly. Like the way I want to put my story and the way you want to put his story, just it's gonna bump heads and our characters just aren't gonna, you know, mold together. Like, is that something that you guys thought about, or is that still a fear? Am I stirring up something? You guys start fighting? I don't.
All right.
To be honest, you know, there are no real challenges because, you know, Brian and I were friends first.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had a shared love, you know, for the medium that we're working in. You know, we love writing, we love creating new characters, so that was never an issue. When we bump heads, I mean, it's, brothers bump heads,
Right.
There are times, when I want to reach through the phone and choke Brian, and I'm sure there are times when he wants to reach through the phone and rip out my hair. But, it's all out of love, because we really want to see the other person do better. You have an idea, okay, but let's make it better. How can we enhance it? But I think the only challenge really is probably the distance. It's probably this pandemic. It would be great to be able to brainstorm with him face to face, but we're on different ends of the country. So, I mean, that's my issue. I don't know what Brian got to say, but
he secretly hates every second you talk on the phone. Like he's like, I can't believe I have to deal with her.
Right. Yeah. If we were person to person, I'd have stone cold stunned him a couple times already.
Really
but no. So I think like anything else, blending is hard, right? Mm-hmm. And if that's the most difficult thing, then I don't consider it a problem. I remember when we were kind of laying the groundwork for some stuff that is going to come way in the future, but I promise you are all going to love in terms of like the history and how long-lived these people are. Because remember, you got two long-lived characters, right? You've got one that's an immortal and you got one that's an angel, right? So we've got eons of history, technically, we could probably do, right? But again, that's a whole, off the subject. But when you're blending that, again, think about, this is not just is a religious comic. So that, but even though it deals with a lot of Judeo-Christian ideas, and that's the framework, right? So when you're adding another character and another long-lived history, I'm not just dropping in Batman, right? If you just drop in Batman into Justice, that's fine. He's got 30, 40 years like of comic time, mm-hmm. but like as a book himself, he's got 80 years. So that's easy in terms of like a history, a timeline you're trying to put together. But if you're talking about powers of the world, you start talking about God, you start talking about angels, gods, mythologies, all these other things. How do they all work together, right? And so in our world, and in even before Malachi and I had spoken about it, in my world, in my mind, all these mythologies are, they are concurrently powerful, right? For me, there was always like, there's one God, right? And then everything else has levels below him. Mm-hmm. So maybe you call them angels, maybe the Greeks called them gods, maybe, and on and on and on. So you've got all these different ways to name the same things. So ironing some of that stuff out is difficult. Yeah. But again, that just requires conversation, it requires communication, and it requires understanding. And anytime Malachi is like, oh man, I don't think Justice should do this, I think he should do that, I'm like, I don't care what you think. But just like if I'm like, yo, I don't think she would act like this, she acts like that, Malachi's like, I don't care what you think,
I will say, yeah. I will say, I won't spoil anything for people who weren't quick enough to get on the campaign or quick Kickstarter. But like I said, reading it, man, getting it like teaser pretty much essentially, or issue 0, and like, man, I'll tell you, I was sitting in bed. Malachi's like, he came out, he's like, did you read it yet? I was like, no, I've been busy. He's like, you should read it right now. I'm like, all right, I'm kind of busy. And I just remember sitting down, like I finally had a second in the day. I was like, you know what, I'm off work. I'm relaxing. I'm getting ready for work soon. Let me just sit down and read it. And it was like 46 pages total, something like that. And I was just going through and I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is beautiful. I was like, wow, this is great comic book art. And then I'm like reading it and I was like, oh my God, like this is really good. Like, so I was super into, and don't get me wrong, I wasn't expecting anything. I was expecting nothing less than great. But it's like, I think it was more than what I expected, which is exciting. Like, I have a new comic book series that I enjoy. And Malachi always puts me on to new comic book series because, like, even though I enjoy comics, I'm really far behind on, like, I like what I like, and then I won't try anything new. So he's always like, oh, try this. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll read this. And I end up loving it. Or I'll see him post something, and I love it. So for this to, like, maybe because I'm personally invested, but I feel like this is going to be my number one, like, oh, I can't wait for them to come out with a new episode, essentially, or like a new comic book next week. Like, I'm so excited. Like, when is it going to come out? Like, I want the hard copy. I want my little figurines. I want my puppets. I want everything. And it's exciting for me because I feel like this space right now is such for, I guess, today's society is such a space that's constantly being watched and people are waiting for it. I feel like before it was like, a commodity to have, we had a black guy on the team, it's cool. Yeah. But now it's like, it's almost like, if you don't have a black person doing something like this in the room, you're probably wrong. And I feel like you guys are filling in such a big, like, because I mean, I know a lot of people are doing it, but for me, it's like you guys is like right now are filling in such a big space. Like as a like creators, writers, just artists in general, like you guys are bringing together a team of people to just represent like black, just black excellence. Yeah. And so I guess like, I mean, I'm not sure if you guys feel this way, but to me, like you guys, like, I keep calling you guys heroes because like I love the idea of, you know, you giving black people hope because, you know, like just like, you know, everyone bragged about how Black Panther was an all black cast and the black director and black music and everything. And it was great. And I was like, something down to like comic books. Like you guys could essentially starting your own universe outside of Marvel and DC, and it's a black universe. like how amazing it is. I mean, to me, it blows my mind how amazing it sounds. Like you guys are creating a black universe, and I say it, and I'm not saying it to like race bait or have people afraid to read your comic. White people, like it's a comic book for everyone, but it's just a black universe, and I love saying that. Like I'm not sure how you guys like feel about it. Like I'm not sure if you feel like you're like you're heroes, but to me, you're heroes. I'm not sure how you're going to speak on that or.
The heroic Malachi gets to go first.
You know, I think what you said is very profound. It's very heartwarming. I think for me and Brian, I don't think we really would consider ourselves heroes in that regard. You know, we're storytellers, and we want to show our people doing these extraordinary things. You guys know I love Storm, but before Storm, I used to love Spider-Man. You know, he was my first love. And then, you know, Batman, you know, growing up loving Batman and all these other characters, and they were great, but, you know, on some inherent level, you know, you really can't connect with them because I don't look like him. So if with Wingverse, as we call it, if we're able to, you know, show, you know, a 5-year-old or someone in their preteens, hey, you know what? You can be this dark-skinned character who can lift up, you know, mountains, who could punch holes through the sun. You can do that. And I think back in February was the Black Comics Day, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah. I really wanted to go, but Brian, he was there for us. And I remember loving the pictures of, you know, the young kids posing with Brian, and they're holding like their Justice, you know, number 0, and they had, you know, the posters, and, you know, you look at Justice and you see like this handsome man, you know, with the braids, and he has the wings, and he has, you know, this weaponry that is just like, okay, you know, this guy, he means business, you know, he's probably the angelic host. And then of course, my personal favorite, as Brian will tell you, I love Caliburn.
Oh God, yes. Oh.
Caliburn is my husband. Okay.
I'm not gonna lie. Like I was telling Malachi, I was like he came into the scene. I was like, oh, who's this guy? And I was like, oh, wow,
this something about him.
He's a powerful character. Like I love all the characters, but like that character is like I got to that part of it. I was like, wow, I started giving away too much. I was like, his little catchphrase he said, and I was like, all right. I see you, like lurking in the background. I see you, you know. Like I was like, all right, I see this. I like it.
Because eventually, you know, this is something that that I would like to see done. You know, because we're doing the T-shirts and you know we're doing the merchandise, but I would love to see you know that tagline on the shirt.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's so hard not to say it because like
yeah, I mean,
so let it be done, I guess.
Yeah, just keep it under wraps. But you know, for Caliburn, you know, just the visual of the character, it's cool. You know, he has the hood, and he has like the tunic, but you know the cross on it. You know, it's just a very interesting character. And he plays off so well against Justice. You know, you have the light and you have the dark. You know, so I'm glad that we're able to create these characters who will be looked up to from the next generation. So it's a huge honor bestowed upon us.
So there's also another. Well, not I won't say another, but like in addition to that, right? So I don't consider myself a hero. I'm just a guy who wants to do comics. I want to do great stories. And I don't think independent comics should be a shield or a reason to put out subpar material, right? If you're doing it just for the love and you just want to put out comics, put out whatever you want. But if we are talking about an indie comics movement and wanting to be taken seriously, then we need to be serious about the art, about the stories, about what we talk about, everything, right? Because that's how all comics started, as somebody's indie project or some idea. So let's help them mature as much as they can. But also, with Wingless Entertainment and Wingless Comics in general, it's always for me been about diversity, and diversity of many things, right? I don't mean, yes, we are 100%, right? I like when you say we're creating a Black universe, and I will love the day when we don't have to say that, right?
Right.
When it's just like, hey, we've always been here. We're part of the universe as well. So, but to that end, if you notice the females, when people read through the book, they're going to see the females in the Justice comic, at least, right? So the first lady of Wingless Comics is a dark-skinned Black woman with tremendous hair and tremendous power. That's off top. That's not an accident. That's not by mistake. That's by design. You go into the Justice comic book, you have two more females in there. One is Billy De La Sante. Again, that's not a mistake. I think it's very important to highlight some of the other cultures that have stood side by side with us through everything and through the maturation of the world. She is Salvadorian and Filipino. She's actually patterned after a very, very dear friend of mine. There's another female in there, Volante. Her name, if you look up the word, it has meaning. There's depth to it. There's a reason she looks the way she does. She's an Afro-Latina on purpose. I believe in representing a lot of things, right? Because we've had stories historically. You have the pillars of a story. It's like you got the white male lead, the white female lead, and then all of their friends, and maybe some of their friends have sprinkles of color here and there. When we're growing up, right, we're the heroes of our own story, of our own life. We are the centerpiece. So my centerpiece is a Black man and all these various, sprinkles of color. And so Justice is the same way. So is Caliburn. And it's not in order for us to shine, we don't have to diminish. There's been a big conversation on Twitter with John Leguizamo and a couple other actors and actresses. The problem with those conversations, right, is that in order for other cultures to thrive, one doesn't have to be put on the back burner. We can all thrive together. And that has been a focus of Wingless Comics. Look at Cyrus, you know what I mean? Like, look at the Scribe, and Jesus, I'm totally spaced on her name that quickly, and that's so terrible.
Ramona,
thank you. Right?
Ramona,
like, how do I not know Ramona?
Don't you forget her name. That's my boo.
Right? Look, man. She'll come and find me if I do. Jesus. But you know what I mean? The multicultural nature, one of life, really, if we're being serious about it.
Realistic.
You can always do that and have it, again, if you're telling stories from your point of view or from your range or whatever, right? Then that means that your star, your person can be you. They can be your person. They can be from your background, and all these other people travel in it. It's funny that people get mad sometimes about like the erasure of this culture or that culture. They've got no problem when a Black person is the villain 100 times out of 100, right? Even though we're only 14% of the American population. But then you put a white person as the villain, they're like, that's unrealistic, even though they're 50% or more of the population. So like, you know what I mean? Like, it makes sense to like switch some of these roles up and to have some of these people that have been underrepresented actually be the driving force behind what's going on. It's just great. It's good to see. It's good to see the switch up. It's good to change the narrative up.
See, it's nice to hear you say that, because I always tell people, because I share a lot of like pro-Black things all the time on Instagram. Like, I don't care. I love to do it. And like I said, my thing is, like I always say, I'm unapologetically forever pro-Black. And so like I said before, previous podcasts, I get messages and comments from people saying, what about, I'll share something like, oh, Black fathers, or like I'll share like Black comic book strips or like Black cartoon characters and like stuff like that. And it's like uplifting things, like saying like, oh, support Black this, support Black that. And somebody goes, well, what about this? It's like, oh, can't white people be this, or can't people be this and that? And I say, like, I have no issues with you being that or saying that. I was like, the problem is, I was like, a lot of times things are represented in comic books, TV shows, movies as Black people being the thug, the guy who's gonna get shot and he don't live past 21. He's gonna be the guy wearing a hoodie, looking like gonna rob you. Like, it's like I look at myself and I'm never represented in a good way in things that I see regularly. Or when I am represented, it's like I'm a supporting cast. I'm never the main hero. So it's like, even when you talk about my favorite superhero has always been Green Lantern. Talk about Green Lantern, everyone goes, "Oh, Hal Jordan was the best Green Lantern." I was like, "Yo, this man turned into a villain and killed like half the he was a bad guy." And like
Right?
he at one point literally gave up and just decided sorry, nerd tangent, but essentially I was like, well, what about Jon Stewart? It was like, oh yeah, I guess he was good, but Hal Jordan
He was cool.
Yeah, I was like, so you see what I mean? I mean, but if you look at even the TV shows, Jon Stewart was a badass character. Like, even in like Justice League Unlimited, like Jon Stewart, like he did not care. Dude. Yeah, he did not care who he offended. He would step up to anybody he needed to step up to. And so I love that. But even then, he was just supporting cast. He never I think he had one or two full episodes. Well, he was with Hawkgirl, something like that. But even then, it was like there's one character I can point out. Like, I can't think of many characters that I've looked at in comic books and like, oh yeah, I look up to that person because, like I said earlier, they don't look like me. And I don't get me wrong, I don't not enjoy comics because people don't look like me, but it's just, I think representation is everything. And I always tell people, like, when people ask a question why I say and post certain things, I was like, because people who look like me have never been represented in a majority in a very positive light. People like me are always seen as background characters, sidekicks, or villains.
Think about the 80s. Like, even if we're talking about movies, right? In the 80s, every movie, you had the armies that Schwarzenegger, whoever, or Rambo was chopping down, right? Was mainly like South American, Nicaraguan, right? All in the 80s. And then all in the 90s, it was all like Muslim or Arabic terrorists. You know what I mean? And all the other movies that are cop movies have all Black people as villains, right? Unless you get to the very top villain sometimes, and it was like a white dude who was running everything. Yeah. Blah, 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 blah.
And he was idolized.
Yeah, exactly. And so those are the images that have been portrayed for years and years and years. Now, that's not to say that other people aren't doing good things, but again, when you get your Muslim heroes, in comics, when you get Dust and stuff like that, like, yeah, man, that's dope. Like, put them out there. Let's see them. Exactly. When you see Milestone Comics came at a great time. Milestone Comics was Black for the sake of being Black and to say, hey, we got heroes and whatnot too. And it's unfortunate some of the things that have happened, and I hope to see their resurgence. But at the same time, I'm a little reluctant, right? But this would be the perfect time for Milestone Comics. Could you imagine a Milestone comic right now where you have Superman on one end and you got Icon on the other talking about Black Lives Matter? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And seeing where the chips fall. Like, you have a rift that you could create in the entire DC landscape and really be poignant and be topical. The problem is that those topical characters, those topical problems are rarely touched on in a serious fashion because you have a lack of not even diversity. You have a lack of representation. You have a lack of those characters that can stand up to a quote unquote Superman. Why isn't Martian Manhunter, my boy John Johns, all in Superman's face about this? What happened to Truth, Justice, and the American Way? On and on and on. There's so many. It's fresh ground, right? And I believe that that's what Malachi and I have individually dedicated ourselves to, and also dedicated the company to, is treading fresh ground, seeing new things and seeing it a different way, and without being pejorative to anyone. You don't have to. It's such and such is not the devil. You know what I mean? Yeah. If we're talking about justice, there technically is. So that's a little bit different. But no, certain groups of people are not inherently evil.
Yeah, I'm not going to villainize an entire race. Yeah.
But you're going to have gradations of human beings that do evil things or good things, and it's just going to depend. And I think that's great storytelling, and that's, like I said, that's the fresh ground we're trying to tread.
Ooh. Malachi, you want to sprinkle some?
He said it all. I agree. I'm just excited that we're doing this. The first issue of Justice with these three, very special stories, it's literally laying the groundwork for what we're going to do for the next several years. Um, we just have so many ideas. We have so many characters who have yet to debut. We just have so much to do. I mean, there's no time for us to really rest. So, just get used to seeing us a lot more. We're going to stay, in your news feed. We're going to be all up and down your timeline, and it's going to happen. It's happening. It's happening now.
I love
it.
It
actually is. I was like, it actually is happening as we speak.
Man.
Right. I got to get off after this interview. Yeah, I'll be right back on the.
Like I love it.
The next thing.
Because I tell people, like, I saw something the other day. Even it was like it's like, oh, I love that Disney, gave us a black Disney princess, for instance. And I was like, like good for them. I appreciate Tiana. It's all fine and dandy. I don't like how she spent 90% of the movie as a frog, but that's cool. I'll still take it. I was like, and it's stuff a lot of people don't think it. Like, it's a representation. A lot of stuff people don't think about. It's like, sure. Some people might look at it and say, oh, we gave you a black princess. Some people look at it as like, yo, you give us a black princess. Like, here, take this. Like, here, take this. Like, here's a handout.
Years for them to give us the black princess.
Yeah, I mean, and it was like, we got diversity. We got, and then like they can name in one hand. We got Mulan. We got Tiana. We got Moana. And I was like, and
well, yeah, right. Of all of them, that's what we got. Yeah.
But so on a lighter note, when are we gonna get a movie or a TV show?
I mean, we just talked bad about Disney like a little bit, but hey, if you guys are listening, we didn't really mean that. So if you just have a movie deal,
Disney owns everything,
right? If you got a movie deal you're thinking about, just go ahead. You can call me, and we retract. Malachi's statements are not in line with
redacted.
So this is my thought on it, right? So don't get me wrong. If someone approached us tomorrow, I'm like, yo, me and Malachi would go into the lab and we would write one. But I believe in not putting the cart before the horse. Let's, Marvel has done some great movies now. DC has done some okay movies. They're learning. But both of those companies have how many years of comics to pull from?
Right.
I think that even companies, when they're releasing comics and releasing ideas. So there's a couple things. If tomorrow we wanted to release 30 more characters between Malachi and myself, that would be no problem. We could totally do that, right? Mm-hmm. But that means that we're not cultivating the characters that we currently have.
Okay.
So we take that same approach to story, right? We've got one issue out. Don't get me wrong. I love the issue. I think that the writing is immaculate. I think whoever wrote that issue is great. No, I think Malachi's writing is great. I think that we touched on some really great things, and I think we had a lot of fun. But to try and parlay that single thing, right, to immediately into a movie, I think that's that's a little bit of cart before the horse. You got to cultivate the story, at least finish it, at least get to where you're getting the personal interest parts and the deeper parts of these things. There are a ton of movies that get released that shouldn't be because they're not cultivated at all. They just have an idea like, oh, this guy runs this way, he runs that way, he's a super soldier, now he punches somebody. Okay, bye. But that's not a good movie. Like,
did you just describe Fast and Furious?
Yes. Oh man, you caught it. See, boom, exactly, right? Like, come on. And don't get me wrong, I've seen them all in the theater. But at the same time, you're like, but is it cultivated? Like, did you really, really do it? Or are we still just going to see Fast and the Furious because we just go see Fast and the Furious movies? Because I want to see a car swing from a rope. I want to see that. I want to see a car going Tarzan.
They're doing the next movie in space. Like I read that somewhere.
No.
That's what they're talking about. Like, it's probably going to end up going to space. I'm like, okay, well, Space Fast and the Furious, I'm going to be there. I'm watching. I'm going to go see it.
But I see what you mean, though, because, I mean, even Fast and Furious, it's a franchise. Like, they said, it started off something small, like it literally looked like a VHS. They were selling VHS tapes out of the back of a truck, and that's how the whole thing started, But it was a franchise. They made you love it for the first 4 movies. It was just about street racing. It's like two guys who hate each other, street racing. And it grew into something like you fell in love with the character. You fell in love with Dom. You fell in love with everybody. Letty, and everyone just made you excited. So when something happened, you were invested. You're like, oh, he didn't just do that. And you know what, Malachi? Some of us actually enjoy cheesy movies.
Look, don't you talk bad about my Letty, bro. Like, you better knock it off. You better stop it. You don't talk bad about Michelle.
You know what? You need to have a movie marathon. Watch Fast and Furious. Fast and Furious from 1 up until.
Yeah.
Look, man, Paul Walker says "cuz" in it. I don't care. I watched 10 movies just because in number 2, Paul Walker was like, "These pockets ain't empty, cuz."
I watched that forever. We ain't hungry no more. Yeah,
I watched that forever, man. Like you don't know good movies, Malachi.
Ejectocito, cuz. Oh, it's actually described. It's a really bad movie. Don't watch it.
It is. No, it is. It is horrible. But it's like horribly great though. Man.
Yeah,
like you gotta love it.
But Malachi, he's giving me the official answers. Well, how soon would you want to see him? You want to see a movie? You don't have to listen to him. You can tell me what you want. If someone approached you and said, "Hey," and if you had a 10-year plan, if I could help you somewhere in your 10-year plan from now to 10 years, and I'll give you the money. Whatever time you say, I'll give you that money to create an animated series for her. When would you want to do that? Direct question. Tomorrow.
I think for me, it goes to what Brian was saying. Like, we don't have enough, material to actually cultivate a story. But if someone said, "Hey, Malachi, I really want to adapt the novel into a movie," I'm gonna be like, "So where do I sign the paperwork?" But that's just based on the book. Yeah.
I will say, and if anyone's, again, I brag about this a lot. I'm not sure if you're still selling copies of your book, Brian, like your original book. If that's, that can be found anywhere.
It's definitely on Amazon.
I'll put links for everything after this is all over. Like I said, Malachi, I've read her, and like I said, I tell everyone, like I said it before, this is one scene in the book where I want him to elaborate. Like he could have a whole nother series based on her past, like that vision she has when she's back in the past. She's in her village, and I don't want to spoil too much of it because I want people to read it. But I remember reading this book and not wanting to put this section down because I was just so enthralled with this part of the book. Like I was like, her love and her and like just everything about it. Her talks to the not want to say witch doctor. I'm reading a book about witch doctors, but just everything about this scene in the book. And I was like, you need to elaborate on this. I was like, if you could just create a whole other series just explaining, not even her, maybe her not even being in it, just a whole other section. Just that. I want more of that. And actually, because you writing that, Malachi, actually maybe get into another book. If I can grab it. 1 second. Because I got into Black authors recently. It's called Kingdom of Souls: The Last Witch Doctor by Rena Barron. Kingdom of Souls. Nice. And it's basically about, I guess, this village of people who are magic, who have magic in Africa and in this African country. And basically, she's this daughter of just people who the highest up in this village, and she's the only one that can't get magic. So she's now thinking about resorting to black magic to figure out what's going on. And so there's a demon going around the village. So now she's trying to maybe resort to using dark magic to figure out why this demon is destroying her village. But every time you use dark magic, it takes time off your life, but there's no direct link to how much time it's going to take. It could take a lot, it could take a little bit. So it's good. And so, but that's what it reminds me of. I was like, Malachi, I could have a whole just 2 books based off just her past. And I'm really looking forward to reading Brian. I'm really looking forward because I'm going to find it. I'm going to read your book. I'm going to get it. Time is tight. Lockdown just ended in the UK, so I'm waiting to get paid. But
understandable.
But I the lockdown here.
You said what?
So we may need to go to another lockdown here in the States.
Not another one. I think you guys should just stuck with the first one. You guys should abide by the first one.
We all agree with that. We should have chilled out. But we're back in California.
Wait, you're back on lockdown again?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, wow.
It's not as strict as the original one, but yeah, a bunch of places are closed down again. Bars and eateries and, that whole deal.
we just because I think all the world closing like around March time. We just opened up like essentially almost everything Saturday.
Yeah.
Like I've literally been sitting in like on my bed on my couch just like watching Netflix. Like when people say they found the end of Netflix, there's nothing else I wanted to watch. And like I've been reading. I'm finally getting more into books, and I just have time. Like spend time with my daughter. So
if you haven't yet, the Transformers series, Transformers Siege, War for Cybertron,
just came out.
It came out yesterday. Brandon Easton is a great writer, a guy I think both Malachi and I follow, interact with, occasionally online in this, small writing community. It's a great series, man. Definitely support Brandon and what he's got going on there. And also, I'm not just saying that just because like I interact with him and he's in the circle, because I would just say if it was bad and if I didn't like it, or I just wouldn't talk about it, honestly. But no, it's dope, man. I'm a Transformers guy. It's dope. It's dealt me some surprises already.
Yeah.
I like it, top to bottom so far. I haven't finished, but if you're looking for something, definitely check that out.
So I will say this. Are there any final words from you guys to the listeners? Anything you want to say goodbyes, or plug your book or anything?
Nothing to say.
Okay.
Nightfall is coming.
Damn it! You stole that. You beat me to it.
Elaborate, please.
Yeah, what does this mean? Please elaborate.
That is the elaboration. Nightfall is coming. It's actually going to be a 5-part series between crossing over with Constant Hustle Comics, Concept Moon Studios, and Wingless Comics. 5-part series debuting October 16th on Kickstarter. Be prepared.
Move over Arrowverse. Oh my gosh, I can't. By the way, is that still called Arrowverse since he's dead?
Yeah, they still call it that. Yeah,
that's so stupid.
But I'm almost done with it now. I think
the whole thing should be done. All right, we'll get into that. I enjoyed this. Like I said, I'm a comic book nerd. Anyone that knows me knows I love comic books. I love like just like anything like this, fantasy, dystopian future, anything that like just I can just escape from. This is it. So I was looking forward to this podcast. I've been like raving about it. I'm so sorry it took me so long to like actually send everything. I've been super busy. But I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy creative schedules, and you're doing God's work to talk to little old me. But but I hope you guys
appreciate it. Thank you, man.
Yeah, I hope everyone has a good night, good day, good drive to work. Everyone be blessed and make good choices.